We talked to some people that have made some bad choices in their past, and they've ended up in jail.
A lot of times you think, well, it won't be me. It'll be the next guy.
I never figured it would ever happen to me. That's just being honest.
It was such a problem that I thought I drove better when I was drinking. I had done it so many times.
I liked how it made me feel at first, but then it just got to be like a habit. I mean, it got out of control.
I always would say, you know, they're gonna catch that guy that's swerving and not using his turn signals. And they're gonna catch that guy. They're not gonna catch me.
All the alcohol and drugs that I done and driving the way I was driving, I'm glad I didn't kill nobody else or myself.
I just drank it and drank it and drank it. And, you know, barely stopped to eat dinner or whatever. I was always drinking at work, drinking. And then I knew.
What would you offer up to them as far as, you know, some kind of thought or advice or way to try to deal with that or get away from it?
It's not worth it. I mean, you got your whole life to live. You don't want to live like this. I mean, it's not the cool thing to do.
Don't be in a hurry to grow up. You know, don't try to be cool because you're hanging around with older kids and you're doing things older kids do. You're gonna get in trouble.
In 2007, Macomb County had 984 drinking drivers that were involved in traffic crashes. 277 of those were between the ages of 16 and 24, and many of them ended up in jail. Now, all is not lost. There are solutions for underage drinking. Jamie, let me start with you, if I may. Jamie Siefert, Project Remedy Supervisor. What are you doing? What is your organization doing to get to these young kids?
Well, know that the CARE organization, which stands for Community Assessment, Referral, and Education, has been around for over 30 years now here in Macomb County for Macomb County residents. So we do information and referral interviews for people that are seeking help with substance abuse issues. We also have a very large prevention department, which is where Project Remedy comes out of. Over the past 30 years, we've provided parenting classes throughout Macomb County.
Let me ask you, what do you teach these parents? I am so curious about that. What do you tell a parent?
There's a curriculum we use called STEP, Systematic Training for Effective Parenting. I always tell people it's the reason my kids are still alive, to be honest with you. They're old, they survived. It's common sense. It puts you in a situation where you're sitting around a table with many other parents that have the same issues you do, and with a facilitator that basically throws the problem or the situation out. Then you have an opportunity to discuss it. So you come to your own conclusions, but it's amazing. That group will bring itself to something positive.
Jamie, counsel me. I have a 15-year-old kid. I have a 16-year-old kid. Those are true. Let's assume for the moment, hypothetically, that they drink. I know they drink. And I tell them not to. I tell them it's against the law, as Judge Sabaugh said. Jamie, help me. I want to do. What can I do as a parent?
You need to keep talking. First of all, you don't give up. That's a big issue.
Tell them what? Tell them, what do I say to them?
You know, Charlie, I referred before the world being different than it was the one I was raised in. If my father said jump, I'd ask how high, sir. I'm pretty sure if I asked either one of my kids to jump, they'd say jump yourself. It's just a very different world today. We have to get the point across to our kids that we love you unconditionally, but I'm not willing to put up with this behavior.
What do we do? Take cars away, not give them allowance, not give them money? Is that what we do?
The punishment needs to be tied to the crime, first
Drinking.
of all. Obviously, if they're taking your vehicle, they're putting you at risk for, like the judge was saying, of being sued or whatever, too. There are no car privileges if we find out you've been drinking. You know, we need to educate our kids on what does happen to them, not only the brain development, but the fact that, again, the younger you start drinking, the longer you will drink, and the quicker you will become addicted.
Officer Jodi Walny of Warren
Yes.
Police Department in the DARE unit. My experience with DARE is that you actually go into the young
Yes.
kids.
Yes.
Elementary school.
Yes,
And you
fifth
actually
grade.
go in there, as you've said before. What do you tell these kids?
Well, I help them understand the dangers and the hazards of drug usage. We're talking about tobacco, marijuana, inhalants, and alcohol is the four major ones I speak about. The DARE program is a 9-week curriculum, 10th week graduating the students for meeting all the requirements for the DARE program. We reach, with the DARE program, the police department and the city and our schools, we reach about 1,800 to 2,000 students.
How do you get into the DARE program?
Well, you have to be an officer that's interested in doing it. It requires you to go through a lengthy, strenuous training for 2 weeks because you're basically almost learning another whole career for teaching. So you've got to learn the teaching skills, classroom management, and you've got to have a desire to work with children.
So you've got a kid that raises his hand and says, you know what, I only drink 1 beer on the weekend because I see my father doing it. Oh, what do you tell him?
Well, I would definitely tell them that it isn't the right thing to do. It is poor decision-making skills. I would advise them about the consequences, the physical and health consequences, the cost, the financial, part of drinking and the addiction for alcohol and other drugs.
Are you seeing kids getting the message? Are they getting the message?
I believe they are.
Why are they getting the message?
Because we're working with them younger. We're catching them before they start. We want to stop them and prevent that start so that we don't have to deal with them after.
What's a good age to start talking to your children about the evils of underage drinking?
As early as possible. As early as possible. Be a good role model.
Kindergarten?
Show them what they should do. Is really a big part the parents can do. Be
First
the role
time there's a
model.
teachable moment, whether it be
Yes.
on TV, at a family reunion, whatever it is, talk about it.
There's
Talk
no age
about the
limit.
situation. Why do you think that person did that? Could it be because they were drinking? Maybe they had poor judgment. That's what happens sometimes when you drink. And you just keep sending this message whenever possible to your children. That's really what we do, or trying to work on through even community coalitions locally. It's the Warren Centerline Prevention Coalition is addressing these issues. We want to get the whole community together. We have judges that sit on the coalition. We have somebody from Sander Levin's office that chairs the coalition. We have police officers. We have community members, moms, dads, people that own businesses within the city, clergy, definitely, that are all there looking at the same issues and wanting to solve this problem, really to set that example that this is not acceptable here in Warren. We're going to raise healthy kids.
Judge, what can you add as a judge? Because I know the officer comes in that uniform, kind of scares me a little bit, but your uniform, your robe scares me more than anything, and I think that you actually do have the ability to go in there and really make an impression on the kids. When you talk to kids, and I know you've done that, how do you sense that these kids, are they getting the message, do you think?
I think, and they've laid out some really great ideas of what parents need to take into account. But children have to understand, once they turn 17, they're going to be held responsible just as an adult. And that is not a lot of time frame to really grow up when you think about it. And so kids need to be taught early on, and all these different programs are helpful about the dangers and how this could affect them. And I think what will eventually happen is that the peer groups amongst the kids, they will sort of enforce it. Because as you know, adults can say this till they're blue in the face, but until the kids really start to take responsibilities amongst themselves, that's when I think you will really see a change.
There's a peer program. I think CARE and your organization is working with that. What is that
Exactly. We
program?
have a group of teenagers from at this point in time, about 7 different high schools throughout Macomb County called T3, Teens Talking Truth. And we have them for as long as they'll stay with us. Many of them have been with us over 7 years. They started in junior high and have stayed with us through high school and gone on to college and still call to see what we're doing. But we have an opportunity to work with them, educate them, give them honest information, and then empower them to go back and talk to their peers. Now, some of them have formed groups where they've gone down and spoken to elementary kids. Elementary kids think these teenagers are very cool. You know,
Really?
so
Yes.
they will listen to their message. So suddenly you've got a 16, 17-year-old that's talking to a 10-year-old and saying, I don't drink, I don't need to. They go, really, not everybody does that? It's an amazingly eye-opening experience. It's empowering for the teenager. It keeps them on the straight and narrow. And it's wonderful for this younger age group coming up.
Do you think it's of value to have kids go to a jail and actually go inside the jail? Is that something that's almost a scared straight kind of approach? Does that work?
Depends
Officer?
on the child, depends on what, what they need to send the message. But each parent would know what their child's capability of learning a message. I think a tender touch also is just as effective, and letting them know you care, letting them know you love them, and that you'll stand by them, and that their decisions are going to affect their life.
There's not just one message. That's it. They keep to hearing multiple messages from multiple sources over
Right.
time. So, some kids this may work for, another kid will say that'll never happen to me.
Right.
Well, then they need to hear a message from a different source. But it needs to come from home, it needs to come from church, it needs to come from the court, it needs to come from everywhere.
Judge, your courts are open to the public, of course, aren't they?
Yes, absolutely.
Can anybody come into your courtroom and watch you in action and see how you deal with underage drinkers?
Of course they can, Charlie. And I think it's important. I invite school groups to come in, and we have had some school groups come in, high school students, to watch the proceedings as part of the government class. And it's important. I'm going to, as a new district judge, I want to make that more of my, some of my programs. I want to have a court in school program, and also have some programs where kids can see that there is a fair way to address the grievances that they may have with each other in the courtroom, having community courtrooms in schools.
Judge, do you think that we're getting any closer to getting the message out?
Yes, we're getting closer to getting the message out. Are we winning it? I think that it's unfortunately, it is a fact of life that this is going to happen. Okay, the important thing I think is that we all take it seriously, and we have these programs, and that we can get to these kids, and even if they never drink, if they're addressed early, that's a victory. But the other victory is that if a kid does make a mistake, that they're not thrown away. The goal here is to make sure that each one of these kids can realize their potential.
One word. Officer Jodi Walny, Warren Police Department, the DARE unit. One word or one little touch as we close this session, this special edition. What do you want kids to know?
That we are here to support them. We'd rather be proactive and educate than to have to be reactive and enforce.
Jamie Siefert of the CARE program, Project Remedy Supervisor.
Knowledge is power.
Very good. And Judge Matthew Sabaugh, District Judge here in the Warren Court.
I want them to know the truth about alcohol, about drinking alcohol as minors, and I want them to know the consequences of it, and that the consequences go beyond this courtroom.
All right. Thank you for watching this special edition of Case Closed, the problems with underage drinking. I would suggest that if you have any comments about this program, please contact TV Warren. From all of us here, I'm Charlie Langton. Again, thank you for watching this special edition of Case Closed.